At the bottom of an old, abandoned well on the outskirts of rural Kentucky, a skeletal mother dog shielded her two shivering pups from the mud and the stones raining down like a cruel sentence. Above her, laughter echoed, sharp, merciless, the kind that turns suffering into entertainment. Her eyes, hollow and wet, pleaded upward for life. Then came the first stone. It didn't strike the ground. It cracked against her skull. The dry snap echoed inside the well, tangled with her muffled cry. Her frail body, brittle as a dead branch, staggered in the freezing muck. But before she collapsed, she forced herself upright, arching over her whimpering pups, her ribs trembling as they pressed against her thin skin. The second stone tore a chunk of dirt from the wall. The third ripped into her back, splitting her skin. Above, two silhouettes leaned over the rim, laughing louder, laughing as if her pain were a show. "She ain't getting out alive," one of them sneered. The stench of rotting sludge mixed with the sharp tang of fresh blood. A cold wind swept through the tall grass, carrying dust into the pit, but it couldn't drown out the sound of their laughter. The dog trembled, her body failing, but instinct screamed louder than pain. She lifted her dark, glassy eyes, tears spilling silently, staring into the void above her. Eyes that begged, "Please, someone, another stone, another laugh." And then another voice, a voice that cut the night like lightning. "Stop, right now." The laughter died. A flashlight snapped on, its beam slicing through the dark, flooding the bottom of the well. What it revealed wasn't just a dying dog. It was a mother, a broken wall still standing, still fighting, even as the world tried to bury her. The silence grew heavy. The silhouettes shifted, uneasy. Footsteps crashed through the brush, fast, angry, unafraid. That night would not end the way they thought. The beam lit her body, mud caked into her fur, blood dripping slowly from her head, her tiny pups gasping weakly beneath her. The sight cut deeper than any blade. Above, the two men exchanged a glance. They hadn't expected a witness. "Who the hell are you?" The taller one growled, hiding a stone behind his back. "You really think you can stick your nose where it don't belong?" the other added, his nervous laugh cracking. The man who stepped from the brush didn't flinch. His name was Anthony, a farmhand from the area, used to the silence of back roads and fields. He'd been walking home from a long day's work when he heard the laughter, the cries. Something had pulled him here. Now he stared at them like he was staring down the devil himself. "It is my problem," he shouted, his voice breaking with rage as he pointed the flashlight toward the well. "That's life down there. You see what you're doing? That's cowardice, you bastards." The men shifted, unsettled. The dog lifted her eyes, not understanding, but something in her breathing changed. It wasn't salvation yet, but it was the first sign that someone had seen her. One of the men spat in the dirt, puffing up his chest. "Go home, Anthony. Ain't your business." "That mutt's just disease. She's dying anyway." Anthony stepped forward, steady. "Dying? No, you're killing her, and I won't let you." The air thickened, hard to breathe. The grass swayed in the wind, but no one moved. Then the cockier one hurled another stone, this time aiming straight for her head. The crack echoed. She buckled, but didn't fall. She shielded her pups again. Anthony exploded. "Enough!" He charged forward, the brush snapping under his boots. The men stumbled back, not expecting such fury. But rage alone couldn't solve the impossible. The well was still deep, dark, and merciless. Anthony dropped to his knees at the edge, flashlight trembling in his grip. "Easy, girl, easy. I'm here. I'm gonna get you out." The dog stared up at him, her eyes shining with pain and something else. Hope. She didn't understand his words, but she understood his tone. For the first time, someone wasn't there to hurt her. One of the men scoffed. "Let's see you climb down there and come back alive with that mutt. You'll die in there too." The other laughed nervously, already edging away. The fight wasn't over, but their bravado was cracking. Anthony scanned the ground. A rusted bucket dangled from a wire, useless for lifting a mother and two pups. He needed rope. He needed help. But he had nothing but his own hands. He lay flat, stretching his arm as far as it would go. Come on, girl, just a little closer. Let me help you. But the bottom was too far. The dog lifted her head, tried to move, but her body trembled, her pups clinging to her belly. Her whimper was pure despair. Anthony clenched his jaw, heart pounding, breath ragged. Time was running out. You two? Help me, he barked at the men. They laughed again. Help? If it's up to us, she dies down there. That's when Anthony realized he wasn't just fighting the depth of the well. He was fighting cruelty itself, the kind that doesn't back down with words. He rose, gripping the flashlight like a weapon, his eyes burning. You don't get it. Either you help me, or you'll regret it for the rest of your lives. Silence. The men hesitated, the weight of his fury pressing down on them. And then, before they could answer, one of the pups slipped from its mother's belly, tumbling into the mud with a sharp cry. The sound cut through Anthony's chest like a blade. Without thinking, he dropped to his knees again, stretching both arms into the void, as if sheer will could bridge the distance. God, hold on, girl. Just a little longer. The mother dog tried to move, her legs trembling, nearly collapsing, but her eyes still burned with the will to live. The stones had stopped. The laughter had died. The whole night seemed to hold its breath, watching as life and death stared each other down. Anthony inhaled deeply, his voice steady, his vow unshakable. I'm getting you out, even if it's the last thing I do. And what he did next would change the course of that night forever. He leaned farther over the mouth of the well, his body stretched to its limit, as if he could reach the impossible, through nothing but raw, unbreakable will. The distance was merciless. Anthony's fingertips clawed at empty air, nowhere near the trembling dog below. His heart pounded so hard it throbbed in his temples. Sweat slid down his face, mixing with the dust that clung to his skin. Time was slipping away. Every second drained the mother's strength. Her pups whimpered, too fragile to last much longer. Behind him, the two shadows lingered. The taller one crossed his arms, masking unease with arrogance. The other bit his lip, chuckling low as if it were still all a joke. You're wasting your time, Anthony. Let 'em die. They're just animals. The words hit like a fist. Anthony turned slowly, his eyes burning with hate. You've got no heart, no soul, but I do. He sprang to his feet, scanning the ground. The tall grass hid brittle branches, twisted wire, rotting scraps of wood left to time. Nothing useful, nothing strong enough. Think, Anthony, think, he muttered, pacing in circles. Then he saw it. A fallen log, thick, still sturdy. If he dragged it to the edge, maybe it could serve as a brace. Maybe he could climb down. Risky, but it was all he had. With effort, he wedged the log against the rim. The wood groaned, threatening to split. Anthony gripped it tight, testing the weight. Unstable, but maybe enough. Down below, the dog watched in silence. Her eyes glimmered with something new, hope tangled with fear. I'm coming down, girl. I'm coming. He stripped off his shirt, tied it to the end of a thinner branch, and lowered it slowly. The dog eyed it warily, unmoving. Instinct told her to guard her pups. Just touch it, girl. Help me help you. She trembled, whined softly, but didn't move. Anthony's chest tightened. This wasn't just about strength, it was about trust. He had to speak to her like she was human, because deep down, she understood. Kneeling at the edge, his voice cracked. I know they hurt you. I know all you've known is pain, but I'm not like them. Let me take care of you. Let me save your babies. Please. The silence stretched. Then, slowly, she nudged her nose against the cloth. Quick, timid, but enough to rip a sob from Anthony's throat. He drew a deep breath, eased himself onto the log, his body taut with tension. The wood creaked, threatening to snap. Every groan was a warning, but he didn't stop. Suddenly, the cockier man stepped forward. You're gonna die down there, idiot! Anthony turned, fury blazing in his eyes. If I fall a man, not a coward. The words silenced everything. Even the crickets seemed to stop. Bit by bit, Anthony lowered himself halfway down. His legs dangled inside the well, his arms stretched. Just another yard and he might reach her. Then, crack! A sharp final snap. The log split in two. Anthony plummeted. The impact was brutal. He crashed into the muck, sinking to his knees. His flashlight flew from his hand, spinning until it landed sideways, its beam cutting across the dog's face. Her eyes widened. For a moment, she seemed stunned. The man had come down. He was in the pit with her. Anthony groaned, forcing himself upright. His body screamed with pain, but his heart hammered harder. For the first time, he saw her up close. Not a shadow, but a battered mother, bloodied, caked in mud, still standing like a crumbling wall over her pups. He moved slowly, hands open, eyes wet. "My God, look at you!" She stepped back, instinctive, but stopped, her gaze locked with his. No stones, no laughter. Just the two of them. Anthony knelt in the mud, lowering himself to her level. "I swear I'll get you out, even if it's the last thing I do." He reached out, gently touching her head. Her body trembled, but she didn't pull away. His hand was steady, tender, human. She closed her eyes, as if remembering what it felt like to be touched without pain. Then the pups cried louder. One slipped from her belly, nearly sinking into the muck. Anthony lunged, scooping it up with both hands. The tiny body fit entirely in his palm, warm and fragile. He pressed it to his chest, shielding it. "Hold on, little one. You're gonna live." Above, one of the men leaned over, shouting, "Now what, Anthony? How you gonna get out? You're stuck just like them." Anthony lifted his face, streaked with mud and sweat, and answered steady. "Stuck? No, I'm with them, and I'll get us out, even if I have to crawl." The dog looked at him differently now. Her body still shook, but her eyes carried a new light. Not just despair, trust. The night itself seemed to pause. The wind stilled. The mud dripped slowly. At the bottom of that well, something larger was happening. A silent pact between man and animal. Anthony drew a deep breath, the weight of responsibility pressing down like stone. He glanced up at the rim, impossibly far, impossibly cruel, but there was no turning back. He was in, and he would not leave without them. His breath came heavy, ragged, as if the air itself were mud. His body ached from the fall, his knees sunk deep in the wet earth. Beside him, the mother panted, her eyes glowing faintly in the dark, her pups whimpering against her chest. The flashlight's weak beam revealed the slick walls, smooth, coated in slime, no cracks, no footholds. The exit loomed above like a merciless mouth, unreachable. And still, the two shadows lingered at the rim. The taller one lit a cigarette, dragging deep, exhaling smoke like he had all the time in the world. The other laughed. "Let's see you climb out now, hero. You'll die down there with them." Rage burned in Anthony's chest, but he steadied his breath. The fight wasn't over. It was only beginning. Anthony couldn't waste his strength on hate. He needed focus. He needed a way out. He turned to the mother dog, speaking low as if she were human. "You're gonna have to trust me. I won't let your babies die here, and I won't let you." His hand slid over her head, feeling the sharp bones beneath her thin skin. She closed her eyes, exhausted, but didn't pull away. That tiny gesture was a yes. Anthony lifted the first pup, the one he'd held before, and tucked it inside his shirt against his chest, warming it with his own body. The second he wrapped carefully in the torn fabric, tying it close to him like a makeshift sling. Both were with him now. The mother tried to step forward but nearly collapsed. She was too weak. Anthony steadied her by the flanks, lifting gently. She wasn't heavy, but with his legs sunk in mud to the knees and two pups strapped to him, every ounce felt like a burden. He looked up. The broken log still leaned awkwardly against the wall. It wasn't enough to climb, but maybe, just maybe, he could use the pieces. If he jammed them into cracks, he could build something like a ladder. With a grunt, he yanked the log free from the muck. The snap echoed through the well like cruel laughter, but he didn't stop. He drove the larger piece against the wall, shoving with all his strength. Twice it slipped, but finally it caught, wedged firm. He tested it with his foot. It sank, but held. Not safe, but it was all he had. "One step at a time," he muttered. He hoisted the mother across his shoulders, careful not to let her slide. Her body trembled, but she didn't resist. She seemed to understand. Trust was her only choice now. With the pups pressed to his chest and the mother draped across his back, Anthony began to climb. The log groaned. Every move threatened to snap it in two. The walls were slick with slime, his hands slipping, his feet sinking, but he pushed upward. 1 yard. 2. His heart pounded like a war drum. Above, one of the men flicked his cigarette butt into the well. The glowing ember hissed as it landed near the dog, who flinched in fear. Anthony roared upward. "You cowards! Think life's a game? Come down here!" His voice thundered across the field. For a moment, the silhouettes froze. Then the laughter returned. Lower, mocking. Anthony forced himself to ignore it. He pressed his knee into the wall, shoved with his hands, climbed another yard. The rim was close now, but his body burned. His arms shook, his breath faltered. The mother, sensing his struggle, lifted her muzzle and licked his ear. Quick, almost nothing, but enough to break him. A sob tore from his chest. "I know, girl, I know. Just hold on a little longer." But fate wasn't finished testing him. Just as he neared the top, the log cracked again. A chunk split off, and he slipped half a yard, slamming his back against the wall. Pain ripped through him, but he didn't let go. Not of the mother, not of the pups. Blood slicked his palm, mixing with the slime, making every grip weaker. The wall spat him back with every attempt. "No, I won't quit. I won't." His voice broke, but he kept climbing. Then another shadow appeared above. Not one of the men. A third figure. A woman's voice rang out. "Anthony? Is that you down there?" He lifted his head, barely believing. "Maria, for God's sake, help me. They're dying." It was his neighbor, Maria, returning from evening mass. The beam of her bicycle light cut through the grass. She dropped the bike and ran to the edge. The men shifted, uneasy. They hadn't expected another witness. "Get out of here, lady. This ain't your business," one barked. Maria didn't flinch. "Cowards! Don't you dare touch him." She dropped to her knees, reaching down. "Anthony, hold on. I'll get a rope, I swear. Just don't let go." His arms burned. His body screamed. The mother whimpered low, as if she knew how close they were to losing everything. The pups barely breathed. Anthony looked up, his face streaked with sweat and mud. "Maria, don't take long. If you do, they won't make it." And then time seemed to stop. The men moved. One hefted a heavy stone, the other sneered. Anthony's eyes widened. Their survival didn't depend only on climbing. It depended on surviving what came from above. The stone flashed in the air before it fell. Maria saw it first. "No!" Her scream ripped through the night. Anthony twisted, shielding the mother and pups with his body. The rock slammed into his shoulder with a sickening crack. Pain seared like fire. The flashlight jolted, throwing jagged shadows across the walls. "Finish it already!" the taller man spat, his voice cracking under his own cowardice. Anthony staggered, but didn't fall. He clutched the pups tighter, feeling their frantic hearts. The mother panted, her nose twitching, eyes locked on the rim as if she could bite the darkness itself. "Hold on, girl. I'm here," he whispered, swallowing the taste of blood rising in his throat. Above, Maria planted herself at the edge like a small, unshakable wall. She grabbed the first stick she could find and stepped forward. "Try throwing another stone. You'll have to go through me first." The cockier man laughed, hollow. "Move, lady. You don't know who you're dealing with." "Oh, I know," Maria shot back, her voice steel. "Two men with no hearts, and God sees everything." The men hesitated. The grass whispered in the wind. The sky itself seemed to hold its breath. Below, Anthony felt his strength slipping through his torn fingers. He needed a way out, now. "Maria!" he shouted. "There's a bucket. Use it. The rope's rotten, but maybe it'll hold the pups." She fumbled blindly, found the rusted handle. The wire groaned, begging to snap. "I'll lower it, one pup at a time. If the rope breaks, they fall. But I'll hold it. Even if my hands tear open, I'll hold it." The bucket lurched downward, scraping the wall, spitting rust. Anthony steadied the mother on his shoulders, pressed the pups close, and lowered the first one into the bucket with the care of a man cradling a promise. "Slow, real slow," Maria whispered, pulling hand over hand, her elbows trembling. The wire groaned, the bucket rose an inch, then two, then three. Above, the taller man stepped forward, ready to kick the makeshift rope. Maria spun, the stick raised high. "Touch it, and I'll break your knee." He froze, his sneer collapsing into something hollow. The bucket reached the rim. Maria grabbed the pup, clutching it to her chest, tucking it inside her coat. The tiny body whimpered, warm and alive. "He's with me! Send the other!" Anthony repeated the ritual. The bucket swayed, stubborn but climbed. The mother dog's eyes followed, torn between the instinct to never leave her pups and the fragile faith in the stranger with bleeding hands. The second pup rose. Maria caught him, pressing him against the first, her coat now holding 2 heartbeats. "We did it, Anthony. Both are safe." A hot tear streaked down his mud-stained face. Now came the mother. The well seemed to narrow. Anthony lifted her by the flanks. She whimpered, her back leg failing. He tried to fit her into the bucket, but knew instantly it would never hold her weight. He needed rope. He needed a miracle. The mocking laugh returned, weaker this time. "Game over, hero!" Then a new sound split the night, the thunder of hooves pounding the earth. The 2 silhouettes turned, startled. A rider appeared, hat bent, leather vest, a thick lasso coiled on his shoulder. "What the hell's going on here?" His voice hit like a storm wind. Maria nearly collapsed with relief. "Mr. Clayton, thank God. There's a mother and 2 pups in the well, and 2 cowards trying to kill them." The rancher's eyes darkened. He didn't ask another question. He swung off the horse, uncoiled the rope with practiced ease, and fixed his glare on the men. "Either of you touch this edge, and I'll put you down myself." "Understood." Silence, sharp as a blade. The horse snorted, pawing the dirt. The men stepped back, unwilling to admit fear. Clayton tied the rope to the saddle horn, tested it with 2 hard pulls, then crouched beside Maria. "Who's down there?" "Anthony. The mother's hurt. I am too. Help me rig her." "I'll drop the loop. Pass it under her chest. Make a figure 8 around her belly. Tight, but don't hurt her." The loop slid down, scraping the slick wall. Anthony caught it, his torn hand screaming, but he ignored the pain. He pressed close to the dog. "Easy, girl. Trust me. It's your turn to climb." She trembled, but didn't bite. The rope circled her chest, then her belly. Anthony secured it, steady but gentle. "Pull slow," he shouted. Clayton drew the rope inch by inch, the saddle creaking. The dog lifted from the ground, a foot, then 2. She cried out, her body begging forgiveness. "Easy, easy, easy," Maria whispered, tears streaking her face. Halfway up, the taller man lunged again, boot scraping the rim. "I told you she won't leave alive." He raised another stone. Maria didn't think. She leapt forward, swinging the stick. "Enough!" Wood cracked against rock, deflecting it. The stone scraped the wall and vanished into the dark. The man stumbled back, his cowardice laid bare. Clayton's eyes burned. "One more move, and I'll hog-tie you both and drag you to the sheriff." The horse snorted, stamping the ground as if echoing the threat. The climb resumed, inch by inch. The rope bit into the dog, she whimpered, but she breathed. Halfway, the loop slipped. Anthony braced her from below, his muscles on fire. "Just a little more, girl. Just one more." Her paws scraped the rim. Maria and Clayton lunged, grabbing her thin hide with fierce care. Together they hauled, and then she was out. The mother collapsed on the ground, whimpering, her eyes searching. Maria opened her coat, pressing the pups against her. The reunion was silent thunder. Snouts, cries, shallow breaths, life itself bound in scent and touch. "She's alive. She's alive." Maria laughed and sobbed, mud streaking her joy. "Now you, Anthony," Clayton barked, lowering the rope again. "Wrap it across your chest, lock it at the waist. I'll pull." Anthony gasped like a drowning man, looped the rope around himself. His arms shook, his shoulder burned, but the sight of the reunited family above lit a fire he didn't know he had. "Pull!" The ascent was brutal. The wall tore skin, the rope crushed ribs. Every jolt sent stars across his vision. Above, Maria whispered her mantra like a prayer already answered. "Strength, Anthony. Strength. God is here." Near the top, the rope snagged in a crack. Clayton cursed, threw his weight back. The horse stepped, the saddle groaned, the knot scraped stone, and gave. Anthony rose another foot, another. His hands reached the rim. Maria grabbed first, then Clayton. They hauled him by shirt, by arm, by sheer will. Anthony rolled onto the grass, flat on his back, staring at the sky as if seeing it for the first time. Silence, only wind, only breath, only life. The mother crawled to him, licking his torn hand. The pups tumbled after, tripping over Maria's coat. Anthony smiled crooked, tears mixing with mud and relief. You're here. The two aggressors shuffled back, chewing on their own insignificance. The taller one tried to recover his swagger. This ain't over. Clayton stepped forward, rope still in hand, the other resting on the hilt of his knife. The horse flicked its ears, waiting. Oh, it's over. You're leaving, and we're taking this family to a doctor. Or we settle it by the law, right here. The men exchanged a glance, weighed their odds, and chose the only path they knew, fleeing into the tall grass, their laughter fading into nothing. Maria knelt by the mother, stroking her battered muzzle. Easy now, Mama. It's over. We'll take care of you. Anthony tried to sit, his shoulders screaming. Clayton, thank you. Without both of you. The rancher's reply was gruff, but kind. Save your breath. Let's strap those pups to Maria's chest. We're getting this family out of here tonight. Cicero adjusted his glasses on the bridge of his nose, held up a rusted scalpel, and passed it quickly through the flame of the oil lamp. She's lost a lot of blood. She's exhausted. It won't be easy, but if she's made it this far, it's because she wants to live. Anthony stepped closer, his voice breaking. Do whatever it takes, Cicero. If you need me to hold her, I'll hold her. Just don't let her die. Not now. The old man nodded, pulling open a drawer cluttered with unlabeled bottles and glass syringes. Hold her head steady, this is going to hurt. Anthony pressed his hand against the dog's narrow skull. She whimpered but didn't bite, only stared at him with dark, tear-brimmed eyes. He bent down, pressing his forehead to hers, just as he had in the well. Trust me, girl. Just a little longer. Cicero poured alcohol into the wound. The dog's scream tore through the room like a blade. Anthony shut his eyes, swallowing his own sob but never let go. He felt her body convulse under his hand, every tremor like it was his own. Maria wept silently in the corner, the pups crying in her arms as if echoing their mother's pain. Clayton stood rigid, arms crossed, his face hard but his eyes wet. The old man slid a needle into her vein, pushing thick medicine through. This will help her hold on, but she needs rest and warmth. If she makes it through the night, she has a chance. Anthony's gaze never left her. You'll make it. I didn't climb out of that well with you for nothing, I promised. Her breathing grew shallow, slower, her chest rising like a faint breeze. Anthony gripped her tighter, desperate. No, don't close your eyes. Look at me. Look at me. Maria couldn't stand it anymore. She stepped forward with the pups. Show her the babies. Maybe that's what will keep her here. Anthony guided one pup to her paw. The mother's nose twitched weakly, brushing against the tiny body. It was like a spark. Her chest heaved harder, as if her body remembered why it had to stay. Cicero exhaled, wiping sweat from his brow. That's it. A mother's instinct is stronger than anything I've got in this box. But it's not over. This night will be long. Time inside that barn bent and stretched. Minutes dragged like hours. The wind rattled the roof. The lamp flame wavered. Anthony never moved, one hand on her head, the other cradling a pup. By the dead of night, when the lamp was sputtering low, the impossible began. Her breathing steadied. Still weak, but rhythmic. The tremors eased. Her eyes opened, clearer, and found Anthony's. He broke into a crooked smile, tears spilling. I knew it. I knew you wouldn't leave me. Maria stroked the pups, crying softly. Clayton wiped his eyes with the back of his hand, muttering, I've seen men with less fight in 'em than this dog. Cicero packed away his tools. It's not finished, but if she survived this much, she's got a real chance. Anthony's whole body shook, not from fear, but from relief. The promise he'd made in the bottom of that well was holding. He looked at Maria, rocking the pups like children. They've got their mother again. Maria smiled through tears. And they've got you too, Anthony. Tonight, you all became a family. Silence returned, but this time it was gentle. The silence of life, not death. Outside, a rooster crowed, announcing dawn. The first light crept across the horizon, painting the sky in pale orange. The sun spilled through the window of Cicero's little outpost, revealing the dirt floor, the blood-stained table, and the exhausted bodies scattered around. Anthony sat slumped against the wall, his shoulder burning, his eyes swollen from the vigil. But he never stopped watching her. The mother lay on old blankets, breathing slow but steady. Her chest rose and fell in the most beautiful rhythm he had ever seen. Beside her, the pups nursed, clinging to her thin belly, drawing life from where there had almost been none. Maria, wrapped in a shawl, watched in silence, her hand brushing her coat as if she still felt their warmth against her chest. Clayton dozed in a chair, hat tipped low, one hand still gripping his rope even in sleep. Cicero stepped in from the back, drying his hands on a rag. She made it through the night. She's not out of danger, but if she's seen the sunrise, her chances are strong. Anthony laughed through tears. She didn't give up. I knew she wouldn't. The old man adjusted his glasses, watching the pups nurse. Their strength is hers. As long as they're here, she'll fight to stay. That's something no man understands until he sees it. Maria looked at Anthony, smiling softly. She's not alone anymore. Anthony pushed himself up, kneeling beside the dog. He stroked her head gently, her eyes opened, meeting his. This time, they weren't just filled with pain, they held trust. You're not just a stray anymore. You're part of us now. She licked his hand, weak but certain. The gesture pierced him like a vow. Clayton stirred, scratching his beard. So Anthony, what happens to this family now? The question hung heavy. Anthony drew a deep breath. The road ahead wasn't simple. She needed care, the pups too. Out here, there were no real vets, no safety nets. But leaving them was never an option. They're coming with me, he said, his voice steady, no matter what. I made a promise in that well, and I'll keep it to the end. Maria's eyes filled again. I'll help however I can. They can stay at my place while you work. There's always room for more life in a home. Clayton nodded, his voice gruff but sure. And if those cowards show their faces again, they'll answer to my rope first. The morning light grew stronger, spilling across the room. The night had ended, but something new had begun. A family had been born in the dirt and blood of that little outpost, bound not by blood, but by survival, by promise, and by love. The heavy air of the night had lifted, replaced by a fragile sense of relief. They weren't bound by blood, but the ordeal had stitched them together with ties no time could ever undo. Cicero cleared his throat, drawing their attention. You're talking about the future, but don't forget, the present still demands care. This mother needs days of rest, good food, warmth, and you need to give her a name. A name is life. Anthony looked at the dog lying on the blankets, her pups nursing at her side. He thought quietly, the weight of the night pressing on him. The name had to carry what they had endured, but also the promise of tomorrow. A faint smile broke across his face. She'll be called Soul, because even in the darkness of that well, she lit the way for her pups. And now, she brings light back to all of us. Maria whispered it softly, almost like a prayer. Saul. Clayton tipped his hat, nodding. That's a good name. A name that warns. A name that won't die easy. The dog lifted her head at the sound. She didn't understand the word, but she seemed to feel its meaning. Saul. The pups wriggled, still nameless. Maria traced a finger over their tiny bodies. And these two need names too. They can't just be shadows of their mother. Anthony's eyes glistened as he looked at them. This little one will be Zakina, because he's strong, but he'll need all of us to keep him that way. And this girl will be Rosa, because she was born in the mud, but she'll bloom beautiful and fierce, like a flower that defies the impossible. Maria cradled them, smiling through tears. Clayton drew a deep breath, hiding the shine in his eyes. Now it's real, a family with names. Hope isn't just a word anymore. It has faces, it has form, it has life. Saul, Zakina, and Rosa. Anthony tucked the blankets tighter around the mother, silently vowing that nothing would ever harm her again. Outside, the day was breaking. The dirt road caught the first rays of sunlight, and the field seemed to breathe again. The mud, The well, the cruelty of the night before, all of it felt distant now, like it belonged to another world. But for them, it would never be forgotten. The mark of that night would live on in every step, every bark, every glance from mother to pups. If this story touched your heart, just imagine how many more we still have to share. Subscribe to Whisker Tales, hit the bell icon, and join us for every new episode of courage, loyalty, and second chances. Because every life deserves to be remembered.